All personnel evacuate Section 7 immediately. 3 Krell juveniles have breached containment. I repeat, Apex Predator Protocol in effect. Security Chief Zillax's voice crackled through every speaker in the diplomatic compound, his usual composed tone replaced with something that made the translator struggle with the nuances of barely controlled panic. According to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Mia Jones looked up from wiping down the cafeteria tables, one earbud still in, and sighed. Yeah, I heard you the first 4 times. Miss Jones, this is not a request. Krell juveniles are biologically equivalent to your Earth tigers. Their hunting instincts are fully active. 2 security drones have already been destroyed. Zillax's mandibles clicked rapidly across the comm. A Zenthari stress indicator Mia had learned meant someone was about 3 seconds from a breakdown. You need to evacuate now. My shift ends in 20 minutes. Mia moved to the next table, spraying sanitizer with the same energy someone might bring to folding laundry. I'm not leaving this mess for the night crew. Through the reinforced windows overlooking the central plaza, she could see the absolute chaos unfolding. 7 different species diplomatic delegations were scrambling toward the transport bays, some moving on legs, others on appendages she didn't have names for. The Valorian ambassador was literally flying, his ceremonial robes billowing as he fled toward the ceiling hatches. The emergency lights cast everything in that pulsing red that seemed universal across space stations. Apparently, every species agreed that imminent danger should look like a really aggressive nightclub. Miss Jones, I am looking at your biosigns right now. Your heart rate hasn't even elevated. Zillax sounded like he was filing this away as evidence that humans were clinically insane. The peace treaty signing has been delayed. The Krell ambassador is demanding immediate containment of his offspring before they tear through the station's hull in their excitement. Uh-huh. Mia picked up a discarded napkin with the tongs. So why aren't you going after them instead of yelling at me? Because the Cubs are currently circling Section 7, your section, and tranquilizer teams cannot deploy while a human is in the potential combat zone. That made Mia pause mid-wipe. Wait, how big are these things? Approximately 200 kilograms each, fully clawed, capable of perceiving movement across 300 meters. They have already demonstrated active hunting behavior by stalking the Meridian delegation through the ventilation system. And they're heading here? Mia glanced around the cafeteria. 30 tables, industrial kitchen behind her, windows on 2 sides. The emergency doors were sealed, blast shields dropping into place with hydraulic hisses that sounded expensive. Miss Jones, I am deploying a security team to physically extract you. You know that's going to cost you guys overtime, right? Because I'm still on the clock during a forced evacuation. A sound emerged from Zillax's end of the communication that the translator didn't even attempt to interpret, followed by what was definitely cursing in at least 3 languages. Fine. Remain there. But when 3 apex predators crash through those doors, do not blame station security for it. The blast door to Mia's left buckled. Not slowly, not with warning. It buckled inward like aluminum foil, accompanied by a screech of metal that made Mia's teeth ache. 3 sets of claws, each longer than her fingers, punched through the reinforced steel. Oh, Mia said, still holding her sanitizer bottle. That's definitely going in the incident report. The door shrieked as it was peeled back. Through the widening gap, Mia caught her first glimpse of the Krell cubs. They looked like someone had taken a tiger, a bear, and something with too many teeth, thrown them into a blender, and poured out pure, concentrated, oh shit. Their scales, because of course they had scales, rippled with bioluminescent patterns that probably meant something threatening in Krell body language. All three of them locked eyes on Mia. Their pupils dilated. "Miss Jones?" Zilax whispered through the comm, his voice gone completely flat. "Do not move." The lead cub bunched its haunches. Mia looked at the sanitizer bottle in her hand, then at the three apex predators preparing to pounce, then back at her bottle. "I'm definitely filling out the hazard pay paperwork for this." The lead cub launched itself through the destroyed doorway, with the kind of grace that comes from millions of years of evolutionary murder optimization. Its two companions followed a heartbeat later, all three clearing the 10-meter distance to the nearest tables in a single bound. They landed on the surfaces with enough force to crack the composite material, claws gouging trenches in the supposedly indestructible finish. The cafeteria's automated systems immediately started shrieking about structural damage. "Tranquilizer teams in position," someone whispered over the open comm channel. "But we cannot get a clear shot with the human." Mia turned around. The lead cub had already coiled for another pounce, muscles bunched beneath those bioluminescent scales, jaw opening to reveal teeth that belonged in a nightmare. It was mid-leap when Mia's eyes locked onto it. She didn't shout, didn't scream, didn't even raise her voice above the tone someone might use when discovering their roommate hadn't washed the dishes. "Absolutely not. Get down." The cub froze. Not gradually. Not with the smooth deceleration of something reconsidering its options. It literally stopped mid-air as if gravity had briefly forgotten its job description, then dropped onto the table in an ungainly heap that sent lunch trays scattering. Its two companions, already airborne toward adjacent tables, experienced similar physics violations. They landed hard, claws scrabbling for purchase, their bioluminescent patterns flickering in what might have been confusion. "What?" Zilax breathed over the comm. "In the 17 hells." Mia crossed her arms, still holding the sanitizer bottle. She didn't break eye contact with the lead cub. "I said get down, off the tables, now." For 3 seconds, nothing moved. The cub stared at her. She stared back. Then, slowly, so slowly it looked painful, all three predators backed down from the tables. Their claws caught on the edges, making metallic scraping sounds that echoed through the silent cafeteria. They reached the floor and just stayed there, sitting, like someone had installed invisible leashes. "Commander Zilax." A new voice crackled through the comm, deeper, with harmonics that made the translator work overtime. "This is Ambassador Korvax. I am watching the security feed. Please confirm what I am seeing is real and not a malfunction." Zilax's voice had gone completely blank. "I am confirming the same feed, Ambassador. All three of your offspring have ceased hostile behavior." "That is impossible. They are in active juvenile hunting phase. They do not respond to non-Krell authority. They barely respond to my authority." Through the cameras mounted in every corner, because of course station security was recording this. At least 15 species representatives were now watching. Mia could feel the weight of their attention like a physical thing. She went back to wiping down the table the cubs had just destroyed, working around the claw marks. "Miss Jones." Jitaro's voice joined the increasingly crowded comm channel. The station's protocol officer sounded like he was reviewing legal documents while having a stroke. "I have replayed the footage 6 times. You made eye contact and issued a verbal command. There was no sonic disruption, no pheromone deployment, no display of physical dominance. By every known xenobiological metric, those cubs should have disemboweled you." Mia moved to the next table. The cubs tracked her movement, heads swiveling in perfect synchronization. "You guys gonna keep yelling in my ear, or can I finish my shift?" "The cubs are following her," someone whispered on the security channel. "They're just sitting there, watching her clean." "Commander." Korvax's voice had taken on a quality the translator marked as existential confusion. "I must speak with this human. Immediately. My offspring do not behave this way. They should not, can not behave this way." Mia glanced at the 3 apex predators who were now sitting in a neat row like the world's most terrifying kindergarten class. One of them tried to stand up. She pointed at it without even fully turning around. "Stay." It sat back down so fast, its haunches hit the floor with an audible thump. "I'm contacting the Xenopsychology Division," Zelax announced, his voice carrying the tone of someone whose entire worldview was actively crumbling. Because either every scientific paper about Krell behavior is wrong, or humans are breaking reality again. "Again?" Mia asked. No one answered. Retry Azila arrived in a flurry of sensor equipment and academic credentials that preceded her like a warning label. The Sildari xenopsychologist had 6 degrees in predator behavioral analysis and apparently 0 patience for impossible situations. She set up her scanning array with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Blue-tinged skin flickering with concentration patterns as holographic readouts materialized around her. "Scanning for pheromone markers," she announced, her vocal nodes clicking through the translator. "Cross-referencing with known Krell dominance signatures." The cubs were still sitting in their row, occasionally glancing at Mia as she finished sanitizing the last table. One of them had its tail tucked between its legs. "Pheromone scan negative," Azila muttered. "Sonic frequency analysis, also negative. No subsonic pulses, no ultrasonic commands, no auditory dominance patterns whatsoever." She adjusted her scanner, mandibles twitching. Checking for biological markers, elevated body temperature, aggressive posturing, threat displays. Mia walked past the cubs toward the kitchen. "I'm grabbing my mop. You 3 stay put." All 3 cubs' heads swiveled to watch her go, but none of them moved. "They're responding to simple verbal commands," Azila said, her voice climbing into ranges the translator marked as academic panic. This shouldn't be. Krell juveniles don't possess the cognitive framework for interspecies submission." "I'm not making them submit," Mia called from the kitchen. "I'm just telling them what to do." "That's the same thing." The blast door, what was left of it, groaned as it was manually forced further open. Ambassador Korvax ducked through, his massive frame making the already destroyed entrance look inadequate. His mate followed, slightly smaller, but radiating the same barely contained lethality. Both adult Krell stopped dead when they saw their offspring sitting obediently in a row. My cubs," Korvax rumbled, his translator struggling with the harmonics of shock. "They are still. Yeah, they've been pretty good for the last 10 minutes, Mia said, emerging with her mop and bucket. She looked at the cubs. "Though they did trash my door and destroy 3 tables, which..." She gave them the look every older sibling in the universe has mastered. "You 3 know better than that." The lead cub dropped its gaze to the floor. "Did..." Korvax's mate made a sound like boulders grinding together. "Did my offspring just show deference posture to a human?" "Impossible," Korvax agreed. But he was staring at his cubs like they'd spontaneously learned calculus. "They respond only to pack alphas. Established through combat dominance, physical superiority displays. This human has shown none of these things. Because I don't need to? Mia started mopping around the claw marks. Look, they're not being aggressive. They're scared and overstimulated. That's why they broke out, right? Too much noise, too many strangers, probably haven't eaten in hours because of all the treaty stuff. Scared? The word came out of Korvax like he'd been asked to explain quantum physics in interpretive dance. They are apex predators. They do not experience fear responses to non-threats. Buddy, everything experiences fear, especially kids. Mia set down her mop and walked directly toward the cubs. Azila made a strangled noise and reached for a tranquilizer pistol. Hey, you three hungry? The cubs' pupils dilated. Their nostrils flared. Mia pulled 3 protein bars from her pocket, the kind the station stocked for species with high metabolic requirements. Here. But you eat them sitting down, and you don't make a mess. Got it? She tossed one to each cub. They caught them out of the air with precision that would have been terrifying if they weren't immediately, carefully unwrapping the packaging with their massive claws. This is... Azila was frantically taking notes on a holographic interface. Every predator behavioral model is failing. Krell's social hierarchy is based entirely on displayed physical dominance. Submission requires combat defeat or generational pack structure. Humans have neither pack biology nor compatible dominance displays. The cubs should not, cannot, be responding to behavioral correction without violence. They're just being kids, Mia said, watching the cubs devour their snacks. You tell them what's expected, you're consistent about it, and they figure it out. It's not complicated. It is entirely complicated. Azila's skin flickered through several colors that probably meant something professionally alarming. I am calling an emergency council. This requires immediate xenopsychological review. Korvax was still staring at his offspring, who had finished their protein bars and were now looking at Mia with expressions that, on Earth, might be called hopeful. My cubs, he said slowly, listen better to a human stranger than to their own sire. Yeah, Mia said, grabbing her mop again. That's pretty standard for teenagers. They always behave better for other people. Through the comm system, Zilax's voice emerged like someone watching their entire understanding of biology catch fire. I'm adding this to the human files under Unexplained Abilities, Predator Edition. Great, Mia muttered. Now I'm definitely filling out that hazard pay form. The Emergency Xenopsychology Council convened in record time. 12 species experts crammed into the cafeteria's observation deck, all staring down at Mia like she was a particularly fascinating lab specimen. Miss Jones, Azila began, her academic composure barely holding. Please explain how you achieved behavioral compliance from 3 Krell juveniles without any form of dominance display. Mia leaned on her mop. I have 4 younger siblings, 2 brothers, 2 sisters. I practically raised them while my parents worked double shifts. She gestured at the cubs, who were now lying down in a neat row, occasionally glancing up at her. This is just kids acting out because they're in a stressful situation they don't understand. Acting out? Korvax repeated the phrase like it was from an alien language, which, technically, it was. Yeah, they weren't hunting. Look at them. Mia pointed at the lead cub. The way he keeps checking where the exits are. That's anxiety. And the other 2 keep positioning themselves near him for comfort. They broke out because they were scared, overstimulated, and nobody was explaining what was happening in a way they could understand. But the aggression, Jitaro started. Was boundary testing? Mia interrupted. Kids do it all the time. They push to see where the limits are, what they can get away with. You show them firm expectations, follow through consistently, and they settle down. Azila's scanning equipment was going haywire. But that requires, you are describing a parental framework without pack hierarchy. Krell's social structure operates on binary principles, dominance or submission. There is no intermediate state. Well, yeah, and that's your problem right there. Mia walked over to the cubs. The lead one's tail twitched. Hey, look at me. The cub raised its head. You scared a lot of people today. That wasn't okay. But I get it. Everything was loud and weird, and nobody asked if you were all right. The cub made a sound that the translator didn't even attempt to interpret, something between a chirp and a rumble. See? Humans don't do dominance or submission. We do guidance. Mia scratched behind the cub's ear ridge. It leaned into her hand. You set clear expectations. You enforce them calmly. And you make sure they know you care about them. It's not that complicated. She is providing authoritative structure without combat, Azila whispered, her skin cycling through colors that indicated rapid theoretical recalibration. A third behavioral paradigm we never accounted for. Humans create compliance through trust, Mia supplied. You show them you're not going to hurt them, but you're also not going to let them hurt others or themselves. Firm but kind. It's basic parenting. Korvax approached slowly, watching his offspring with something that might have been wonder. My cubs have never been this calm in public. Even in our home den, they require constant physical assertion of authority. Because you're treating them like subordinates instead of kids. Mia stood up, brushing scales off her uniform. They're not trying to challenge you. They just need structure and patience. The cubs stood when Mia did, then followed her as she walked toward the kitchen to empty her mop bucket. All three trailed behind her in a single file line, occasionally bumping into each other when she stopped. Korvax's mate made that boulder grinding sound again. They are imprinting on her. More like they finally found someone who treats them age appropriately, Mia called back. All right, you three, let's get you back to your parents. But first, she turned around, hands on hips. Apologize to Security Chief Zilax for the drones you broke. The cubs looked at each other, then at the nearest camera. They lowered their heads in perfect synchronization. I am accepting this apology, Zilax said through the comm, his voice suggesting he'd given up on understanding anything. Even though I have no idea if they actually understand what they're apologizing for. They understand, Mia said. Right, guys? Three tails thumped against the floor. 20 minutes later, the peace treaty signing resumed in the main diplomatic chamber. The Krell cubs sat quietly beside their parents' delegation, occasionally glancing toward the back of the room where Mia had been stationed, just in case. She'd given Korvax and his mate a 15-minute crash course in not treating your kids like subordinate pack members, complete with tips on positive reinforcement and consistent boundary setting. Feed them on a schedule, not when they prove dominance. Praise good behavior, redirect bad behavior, and for God's sake, spend time with them that isn't combat training. The ambassador had taken notes. As the treaty was signed, without incident for once, Jotaro updated the station's security protocols in real time. A new entry appeared in the Human Behavioral Database. Humans demonstrate unexplained ability to achieve predator compliance through non-dominance methods. Classification, authoritative guidance. Threat level, none. Confusion level, maximum. Recommend human presence for all situations involving juvenile predators. Also recommend humans stop being impossible challenge to established xenobiology. Mia watched the ceremony conclude, then checked her watch. Her shift had ended 45 minutes ago. "I'm definitely putting in for overtime," she muttered, heading back toward the cafeteria. Behind her, 3 Krell cubs watched her go, their bioluminescent patterns flickering in colors their parents had never seen before. The Krell equivalent of contentment. The requests started arriving before Mia had even finished her incident report. First came the official diplomatic communication from the Krell Collective, transmitted with the kind of encryption usually reserved for military secrets. Ambassador Korvax wanted to contract human consultants for their entire cub-rearing program. Then the Valorian High Council submitted a formal inquiry about human childcare methodologies. Then the Meridians. Then the Xanthari. By the time Mia clocked out, 7 different species had filed requests for human juvenile behavioral specialists. "You mean babysitting?" Mia asked when Jotaro nervously presented her with the compiled requests. "I charge 15 credits an hour. It's 20 after midnight and on holidays." "Miss Jones, these governments are offering you annual salaries that would..." 15 credits an hour, Mia repeated, shrugging into her jacket. "And I'm not moving off station. I like my apartment." In his office, Zilax was updating the human database files with trembling appendages. The entry kept growing longer. Human designation, Mia Jones. Occupation, cafeteria services. Demonstrated abilities, predator behavioral modification through non-combat methods. Theoretical framework, authoritative guidance. Maintains compliance through expectation establishment rather than force projection. Somehow more effective than 70,000 years of Krell evolutionary dominance psychology. Recommend, do not attempt to explain. Just accept. He paused, then added, also recommend, never schedule emergency drills during human shift changes. They will ignore evacuation orders for cleaning schedules. The Galactic Council had convened an emergency session, the 3rd one this month about humans, which was apparently becoming a concerning pattern. The topic, human parental authority fields and their implications for predator-prey diplomatic relations. Azila was presenting a paper that was approximately 40% data and 60% academic screaming. They don't have pack biology. They don't display dominance markers. They just expect compliance and somehow receive it. It's like they've weaponized the concept of disappointment. Back in the cafeteria, Mia was mopping up the tranquilizer foam the security teams had abandoned when the cubs had inexplicably started behaving. Through the reinforced windows, she could see 3 Krell cubs pressed against the glass of the diplomatic quarters, their massive paws leaving prints as they tried to wave. She waved back, shaking her head. Her comm chirped. "Miss Jones, this is Ambassador Korvax. I am submitting a formal recommendation to Council that all future negotiations involving juvenile participants include mandatory human presence." "Cool. Still 15 credits an hour. Additionally, I would like to schedule weekly consultations regarding..." "I'm off Wednesdays and Sundays," Mia interrupted, wringing out her mop. "Send me your availability and we'll figure it out." She disconnected before he could respond, because there was shouting coming from the service corridor. 2 of the station's other janitors, a Meridian and a Thexian, were arguing over supply closet assignments, their voices escalating into the kind of territorial dispute that would normally require security intervention. Mia sighed, grabbed her cleaning cart, and headed toward the commotion. "Hey, both of you, knock it off. There are 3 supply closets on this level. Pick different ones. Problem solved." She looked between them. "Or do I need to make you a schedule?" Both janitors immediately stopped arguing and shuffled off in opposite directions, mumbling apologies. Mia watched them go, then looked up at the nearest security camera. She could practically feel Zillax watching. "Great," she muttered, pushing her cart toward the elevator. "Now I'm the station mom." Her comm chirped again. 6 more requests for human behavioral consultation services, including one from the Zenthari military, asking if humans could do that thing with their combat trainees. Mia silenced her comm, finished her route, and clocked out exactly on time. Behind her, the station's new protocols were being implemented. Human-specific guidelines for dangerous species interactions. Emergency procedures that accounted for humans' baffling refusal to panic. Diplomatic frameworks that incorporated authoritative guidance as a legitimate third option beyond dominance and submission. And in 7 different star systems, governments were frantically searching for humans willing to explain how they'd accidentally solved predator behavioral problems that had existed for millennia. The humans, for their part, remained confused about why everyone was so surprised they were good with kids. "It's just basic parenting," Mia's message to the Krell Collective read. Literally anyone with younger siblings could have done this. The Galactic Council added that message to their files under Human Tendency to Understate Extraordinary Abilities. See also Every Other Human Incident Report.